Schenectady City School District Board of Education meeting this evening. At this time, I would like to call the October 6th, 2021 meeting to order, and we will begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is my understanding that we are live streaming at the moment, but we are having some technical difficulties with that, so there may be interruptions in the live stream. However, the meeting is being fully recorded and will be posted later on the website as it usually is. Thank you. I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda presented before us this evening with the addition of walk-in resolution 8D to 8G. So moved. And second? Second, Eric. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Opposed? That motion carries. We have the minutes of the September 22nd, 2021 Board of Education meeting presented for approval. May I have a motion to accept these minutes? So moved. Second. Any additions, corrections, or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries as well. We have comments. Privilege of the floor. Martha has one comment to read.
Dear Board of Education members, in the last school board meeting, Superintendent Soler asked for feedback related to how the district is now reporting COVID cases to the school district community. We would like to express the concern that the weekly COVID numbers are not accessible enough. While some parents may want weekly numbers rather than daily updates, including this information only in the superintendent summary makes it feel hidden. The format of the daily emails we received last school year was easy and quick to read, rather than looking for the numbers in the second or third page of a newsletter. If it is decided to continue only reporting weekly COVID numbers, we would encourage the district to send this information separately so that it is easily accessible and we do not have to hunt for this information each week. In addition, we would like to express support for initiatives to mandate our student athletes get vaccinated, particularly as we enter winter months and indoor sports. This adheres to CDC and New York State Department of Health recommendations, particularly for high-risk and indoor sports. At the last meeting, we were disappointed to hear some school board members express that they did not support a mandate previously because the CDC only issued a recommendation for vaccinations. The CDC does not have the authority to issue mandates. That is up to individual state and local governments. If a school district is serious about student health, they will abide by CDC recommendations and require that student athletes be vaccinated. While we understand mandating vaccines is a complex issue, sports are a choice for students. If a student or their parent does not wish their child to be vaccinated, they do not have to participate in the sport. Thank you for your time. Heather Hutchison and David Toby, parents of two student athletes.
Thank you, Martha. At this time, I would like to read these comments before our public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take your concerns and questions seriously, and we want to have sufficient time to process and research issues, if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. Please know, however, that we take personnel concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels that the district provides, and the district will provide community members with an organization chart which denotes who should be contacted for different issues. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once again when order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. And as you've just heard, Martha read those. All right, so the board will now entertain public comments. Each individual speaker is allotted 3 minutes. The individual time limits will be enforced so that as many members of the public who wish may be allowed to do so. And the first person I have signed up is Chris Otley. I can. Right. Yes, I guess it's over there today. It's moved.
So I'm a 21-year teacher here at Schenectady High School, and I want you to imagine all of you going to work in fear every day. Going to work in fear for your safety, for your clients, for your colleagues who you love. That's what's happening here at this building. Violent incident after violent incident. I want you to think about that as I give my comments, please. There's a mental health crisis in America. 2 years of COVID has made it exponentially worse. In young adults, it manifests itself in self-harm and violence. The worst 2 things. Violence against restaurant employees, hospital staffs, and boards of education all over the country. In SHS, it's manifesting itself in violence by students and community members. Schedule changes will not help this. Additional principals is a great move, but it's a good start. It's not enough. This morning, I spoke with 2 faculty members and 1 administrator within 20 minutes of entering this building at 7:30. They all wanted to quit. This is an epidemic going on in education. Educators are tired, they're exhausted, and they're fearful. Teachers and staff are leaving jobs in record numbers. This week at the high school, a colleague was verbally assaulted, an African-American colleague, called the N-word by a group of students when he asked them politely to put a mask on, and then threatened to be jumped. Last week, uninvited community members came into our building seeking violence. As far as I know, the police did not find them, neither did our administration. 2 weeks before, uninvited community members came in unnoticed, entered a classroom, and attacked a student. It's not okay. This morning, an adult was struck by a student trying to break up a fight. I've broken up fights. It's every day. My building is short 8 to 12 teachers every single day. That means that there are 60 to 100 classes requiring coverage by us. That means our days are exhausting, and we don't have time to plan, respond to students, have kids in for lunch, all of the things that are great about my job that's kept me here for 21 years. The life is being sucked out of our staff, and nothing is being done about it, as far as we can see. Now, I know we don't see everything, but no responses. I'm a 21-year veteran teacher. In those years, I have never been more nervous for the safety of my students and staff. 21 years. I've been constantly and unwaveringly disappointed by this board, new members excluded. Every time I've come here, I've emailed you, I've met for coffee. Nothing. I warned you about the last guy. I won't discuss personnel, but it's really disappointing when you fail to act or take these seriously. I hope you do today. You still have a chance to do some good. This is your chance. Your legacy of inaction can be changed. It's a chance to write a new ending to a story, one that could significantly impact our kids and save lives. We lost a student this week due to mental health. This will get worse. It will. And with inaction, it's on you. Take some bold action. Please. I have no concrete solution, but I'll tell you what might help. We've invested millions already in technology to provide for asynchronous or synchronous virtual learning. Even one day every other week on a Wednesday would reduce the number of absences by staff. It would lessen anxiety for everyone. Students, staff, administration, everyone. Everyone gets a mental health break and a renewal. It's some hope. It's something to look forward to. I understand we need to keep kids in the building. I want to be in the building. Staff can come in the building those days and teach from their classroom without the stress of having to cover a study hall and have kids you don't know entering and exiting your classroom. This morning, my U.S. history class was entered by 6 strange kids. Strange to me. One after one came into the room, disrupted my exam, and as I approached the door, I tried to keep it open for COVID reasons and asked them to leave. One kid butted up against my chest, called me the N-word, and said he was going to do something very bad to me. That shouldn't be happening. Our kids are begging for help. Please help. It feels like you owe students and staff at least that much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. At this time, I would like to call for a moment of silence in memory of the student that we did lose this week. Thank you. Chris was the only person I had on deck, so I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, board members. Just want to provide some brief remarks. But before I kind of get into the meat of my remarks, first I want to start out with a special recognition we have in the audience today. I want to congratulate the Ozark students at Oneida Middle School, who last week learned that they were the winners of the State Farm Neighborhood Assistant Grant for $25,000. They have some great ideas on how they want to spend all the money. They don't want to give it to their club founders, Mr. Sambora. I want to first also thank those who voted, who are listening and watching. I know many of the board members and the staff voted 10 times a day. They spread the word. So, this was truly a community effort rallying around our students over at Oneida. And they went up against corporations. So I want to be clear here. They went after McDonald's and other corporations across the country. Nationwide. So they should be very proud. But I want to share the announcement with you. So Chris, if you can cue that up and folks can see.
Oh my God!
Praise
can just have the students stand up. This is time where everyone just grab the microphone. We can share a couple of remarks to the board. Yeah, we can bring right up to the microphone, please. The kids, no matter the people.
We're so proud of you guys.
Tomorrow they'll be receiving their check, and right at Night Middle School, right after school, from the State Farm, we're really excited to be, there'll be media there, the press, but Mr. Tucker, if you want to just share some comments to the board, or on behalf of your kids?
Yes, so tomorrow at 3:45 or 3:40, we have the check presentation. State Farm already sent us a check, and but they were more excited because they thought, yeah, Jay from State Farm.
He may still show up. He may still show up.
Yeah, he was in the video.
Maybe we'll have Dr. Fuller dress up.
But it was really to you gotta give it to these kids because they came during the summer. They gave up their summer vacation to come in and do videos, drive their parents crazy to vote. I want to thank the parents too, Mr. Farina, my two colleagues that work with me, some of the colleagues. Sorry, I hate to leave my own rules. But the kids, parents, my two colleagues, I want to thank them. But I prepared something I want to read. Okay. So everybody knows my name is Vaccination. I teach sixth grade math and science at Oneida Middle School, and also I'm co-founder of the Oneida Student for Anti-Racism. I would like to acknowledge my two colleagues, which I already did, Heidi Estrada and Ms. Abdul, Tatiana Gibson, and Haley Yechuru, and Camille Henry they couldn't make it, so I want to make sure that. So those people I asked them from day one, especially Heidi, to join with me and do this together. She didn't have any say in saying no because we've been teaching together for the last 13 years and 14. So I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for inviting us and some of our guests tonight to this meeting. For those who might not know, OZAR is a student-led community where students drive all projects, ideas, and discussions. Our mission is to create a student body where students learn about themselves and the history of their community, while at the same time instilling tools for advocacy and helping them realize the power of their voice. It's our hope that the students who enter this program use what they learn to affect a real and substantive change within the community. For this to be realized, an individual student should expect to abide by our 4 agreements. First, to stay engaged, for activism is meaningless without action. Second, to speak your truth. This program is not one voice, nor one message. It's the collective of voices and messages to making a better future for everyone. Third, expect to experience discomfort. The work that needs to be done is not easy, but we are committed to doing the work regardless of how hard it may be. Last, expect and accept lack of closure. The issues we face are unresolved to this day, but through conversation and activism, we're working towards solutions. These 4 agreements are used in practice within our space. They are the foundation of our program, which creates a productive environment so that we can contemplate solutions and initiate action for positive change. A model that all of us can use in the spaces we wake up in occupied. As I stand here, I'm astonished to see such an amazing outpouring of support in the wake of receiving this grant. As a committee, we have the support from you all, the school board, and the district will continue as we persist in the fight against racism. Support by way of program funding, eventual replication falls out in other buildings throughout the district, and a firm community commitment against hate, inequalities, and injustice within our communities and society. Ozark is beyond Oneida Middle School. We represent the whole Schenectady community. We must not underestimate the power of our students, their collective voices, and their dedication to improving our community. Instead, let us continue to support and nurture our students as they write a better future for all of us. I would like to end my remarks by issuing a challenge to all of those in attendance this evening. We as Ozark challenge you all to move beyond words, minutes, agendas, which are here to talk to each other, take action, and support our fight against racism. And also, I'm not going to finish without mentioning one of your own, Jamaican laugh when we did this. She was able to contact people outside the community, people in Albany and all over, and she was waking up at 10:30 at night and saying, "Hey, we're losing, we need to do something." She would come to Oneida and do a Facebook Live to get people to vote. So, once again, thank you for your time and recognition. This was definitely a grassroots effort. And like I said to the executive report the other day, I said, don't underestimate the community who likes to do better for its students. So thank you.
I went through the website and looked at the 40 recipients and found that you are the only school in New York State that received any of the money. There was one other organization in New York State, and that was a nonprofit of some sort. So congratulations again, and I'm very happy.
If possible, I do have some more comments, but appropriate if the board members, if they want to say anything, say now, they're up here. If not, maybe if you want to thank the kids. Well, I don't want to force you, but I can take it. It's a good time. So. Sorry.
One comment for that, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, just congrats. I think it really speaks volumes that you were a smaller school going into the grant. And it really shows by the way that people really believe in what you're doing. And because Jamaica asks people to do a lot of things, and I don't know what you do, but they believe in what you're doing and they follow through with those votes. So really congrats. It's really awesome.
Yes, I actually was going to congratulate you guys in public session, so I'm really, really excited and proud for each and every one of you. This is a really exciting moment. I love the video, I've seen it prior to tonight, and I just thought it was amazing to see such excitement and to see that you guys were so happy about what had happened. The community definitely backed you guys, and I know personally, I was definitely all over it. If you don't have my kids, my son took her student assistant guys some time ago. So he was involved, everyone was definitely supporting you guys. So congratulations again.
You're very proud of yourself. What you're doing by talking about racism is not easy. As you might see in the news, I don't know watching the news, but if you watch the news, yeah, so you should be very proud of yourself, and it's great to see, and I hope that you all realize how important your voice is, and that it doesn't matter how old you are, that if you have something important to say and you back it up, back it up with evidence, it is a powerful tool. So congratulations, we are very so proud of you, and you have made Schenectady so proud. Thank you so much.
Good to see you all.
I think everybody pretty much covered it, but I wanted to say again how proud we all are of you, and we are looking forward to all the changes you're going to make in this world, because we know you will do a lot of great things for everybody.
And congratulations to our future leaders. who will be in the high school and make a change there too. You guys enjoy your trip to the African American Museum. You're going to have a fabulous time.
We don't need to wait for you to be leaders tomorrow because you're leaders today. One of the things that's really amazing, y'all did videos, it made my work easy. Being able to show the greater capital region, who you are and the work that you're doing, it united people across borders that normally they don't cross. They saw something to invest in, and it was all of you and your voices and your mission. And many of you, I've read things that you've done, some videos, y'all know stuff. That was not cussing. Y'all already know stuff, and you recognize it through your lived experiences in your communities. And you should be proud of yourselves today and tomorrow and all of the work you've already done and that you're yet to do. And it was my pleasure to be able to support you the way that I did. Y'all just gotta help me. I got you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sandra. Congratulations.
One last thing I said to our leaders last year when we started this, and there were only 6th graders. This year we have 7, and then we have also 8th graders. And I told everybody that these kids, they're ahead of their time. Because some of the things that they like to talk about, some of the things that they talk about, even us adults, we learn a lot. They always correct us on what we said, things that we said, so it was really remarkable. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, parents, for coming this morning. I just have a couple of additional comments, Mr. President. Last week, we unveiled the first installation of a book vending machine at MLK. Students put a special coin in the machine and got to set up the book that they would enjoy reading. It was great to see the smile on their faces, even through a mask, you can still see kids glowing. And I know other schools are looking to mimic that same potential book vending machine, so hopefully if we do this well, we'll have book vending machines in every school and kids will be taking home books to read on their own. Last but not last but not least, but I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize our principals. This is National Principals Month. I want to extend a huge thank you to each of them. Reopening would not be where we are now. I know we have challenges. No one said it was going to be easy. I don't think any of the principals signed up for easy work. They signed up for the necessary important work. I know they're committed to continue to work through the various challenges. So I just want to make sure we recognize them. They are dedicated individuals. They respond to myself, to parents at all times of the hours. They work tirelessly. I know they will continue to address the challenges before them, and we'll continue to work together. So I just want to make sure we take a moment to say thank you. And those are some folks in the audience. I want to thank them. They're watching online. I also want to thank them for their hard work. This Friday, we will have a 15-minute early release. I want to just remind parents who may be watching it, this is required drill that we do across the entire capital region. It's a way for us to test the effectiveness of transportation, communication systems in the event of a major emergency. We ask parents to plan accordingly and know that students will be released from school early and buses will be dropping off approximately 15 minutes. And obviously we have transportation challenges as well, so it may not always be 15 minutes early, but please know that we are dismissing early. In particular at the high school, we're doing a half day. We're going to be doing a half day on Friday to start to potentially try some synchronous virtual instruction or asynchronous virtual instruction on Friday. That's a trial just to kind of see where we are with the technology. We've got one-to-one rolled out at the high school. All the kids have their devices. It'll be modified experience, so just be mindful of that at home. We're not expecting kids to do a 3-hour day. It's just to kind of test our systems. It also is going to allow us to do some things internally to address some of the things that we see going on, and we're going to build on that. And the hope is to slowly reset expectations and school culture. Next week, we also have a short week. Just want to remind folks, Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day, Italian American Heritage Day, or Columbus Day. There's a variety of definitions of that day for various folks. We'll make sure that we recognize that it's a short week next week. I also, probably more importantly, given some of the comments that were said earlier, is that the New York State COVID dashboard is back online. That will provide everyone daily updates to the buildings. They're usually 24 hours behind. The link is in my weekly brief, but we also have it on our website. And the numbers don't always align to what we report weekly. That's because sometimes we're not aware of some of the information that may be withheld or may have not been reported to the state. You may know before the state puts it until it's in the portal. Remember, it's 24 hours behind. So when there are changes at the school, sometimes there's some logistical things that need to kind of happen before they're kind of recalibrated. So I say that to say that no one's making an effort to be disingenuous or hide information, but this is a very fluid pandemic, and we try to report as often as we can. The principals enter that every day before they leave, and then it goes to the portal. So those who want accuracy, the portal is your best friend. It shows the staff, it shows the students, it shows the total tested, positive. Unfortunately, it's a cumulative number, so I also want to be mindful that it doesn't reset every day. It's cumulative, so total cases are over all the days of school, and we're on today day 20 of in-person. And last but not least, if you're looking to get COVID vaccination, we have a link from our partners at Schenectady County Department of Health. The schedule's on our website. They have some walk-in pods at 6 different locations on various days of the week. And so I just want to make sure that those individuals who continue to seek that opportunity is afforded to you for free. So to conclude my comments.
Board members. Erica? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, Megan?
Master's really killing me today. I do want to add that for the COVID report card, thank goodness the website is up and running. You are able to see additional breakdowns last 7 days or last 14 days so that you kind of get a sense of any trends of where the numbers are. But yeah, like it currently shows the last reported date for October 5th for the check today before I came in. And for the Schenectady County COVID vaccine pods, there are daytimes, there are evenings, there are weekends. We're talking Sikkim, Schenectady County Community College, City Mission, like it's throughout the city in some of our most disadvantaged communities and fairly accessible. Really glad to see those links on our district website, and they're right on the front page. They're on the landing page. You don't have to go looking for them. You just click on schenectady.k12.ny.us, and it's right there on the landing page to see both of those things. I want to encourage folks, when our students have away games, for those that are capable, go to an away game, because it can be brutal. Those away games, those entire cities are in the stadiums, and they are cheering for their kids, not that they should not, but then, we got our little, yay, Schenectady, like, our kids deserve us to show up, especially those of us that have the ability to be there, because not everyone can get in a car and drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but whether you've got a kid in the district or not, go and scream for Schenectady, because you can also find that calendar on our website as well for upcoming games. There are a number of community events that are coming up on October 10th, this Sunday. There's a Carrot Festival at the congregation on Upper Union Street. On Monday, Indigenous Peoples Day, as we continue to lead within the anti-racism lens. On Friday, October 15th, at Sikkim on Albany Street, is the naming of the food pantry for Phil Grigsby, who has been such a pillar in this community fighting for food security for our children, really putting in the hard work, currently battling the ALS, and I send my heartfelt positive energy to him and his family as they go through this time, and look forward to being in community at Sikkim, 3 p.m., October 15th. And then on October 23rd, it's a busy day in the city of Schenectady. Create Together at Jerry Burrell Park will have free children's arts and crafts activity, but also Sikkim has an open house for the Schenectady Urban Farm on Hewlett Street. So it's a lot of fun, lots of things coming up. It's a great way for us to be able to be out and interact with our community because a lot of our families are there, our students are there. It's typically a good time. And our next board meeting is on the 20th, so everybody can come to that. Last Sunday, there was a small Zoom community conversation to talk about vaccines and COVID. There were 4 parents that were on the call. It was a really great conversation because not everyone agreed about everything. The overwhelming majority of parents were asking for vaccinations to be mandatory for athletes. There was one parent who talked about the importance of choice and them really wanting as much information as possible. Really just like, hey, how can I get more information? And my go-to is go to the district website. There's a whole bunch of links there. Looking forward to having another community conversation and every opportunity for us to hear from parents, students, staff, and teachers. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Nicole?
I'm just very proud of our students. They are current youth leaders, but there will be future leaders going to your high school. So this is what's coming. I'm just addressing, the concerns that was spoken earlier. We have some great principals that are here to reset our culture, as our superintendent has said, and I look forward to being part of that process.
Nolan?
I just had a couple of additional comments. Speaking about the end of the year, obviously not the holidays and things are coming up. I know that this is posted to the district website. I did want to reiterate that Concerns That Are Hungry is doing food basket sign-ups by October 22nd from 5 to 8 p.m., Saturday the 23rd from 10 to 4, and Sunday the 24th from 1 to 4 p.m. And then there's also the Practice Acting Academy, which begins October 12th. It is open to students in 6th through 8th grade. I know I personally do correspondence, in home with my students, but there is also a possibility to enroll online. I don't know if that's something that can be posted.
It's already on social media.
Perfect. So there you go.
I just have a couple things to add. I want to remind people about the Working with Young Girls Sports Celebration and the Working with Young Girls website to find out more information that directly benefits our students. I also want to thank the cross-country team. I participated in the Fly Hop Run for Women, and our cross-country team is there volunteering, and they were collecting water bottles and cheering us all on. So it was good to see them there. And when I talked to them, it was great to see them all in the community.
Many of my comments were shared. I would just add that October 31st at the Gerald Girl Park will be a haunted house for the community and students who would like it. And then one last thing, I just want to remind folks, because I know a lot of things are changing. There's a lot of rebooting, as Mr. Sarver mentioned earlier, but right on our website as well, there is the American Rescue Plan, and it's right on the main page, so you can really take a look at the outline of the proposed things that we're going to be doing in Schenectady in the future.
I think that's the last one. I would like to reiterate your making comments about going to away games. I would be happy to see a few more people at the home games. I used to go Saturday and felt a little lonely actually in part. I was there for about half the game. I also on Saturday attended the Rock Park Run. We counted out, the t-shirts this year don't show the number of years, but it's been something like 83 years. We're not sure whether to count last year or not, that was kind of a lost year in a lot of sense, but it was amazing. It is amazing, really, to see the number of schools that participate in the Rock Park Run, and then the number of volunteers, community volunteers, and staff and student volunteers and so on doing that event. And so I provided rubber bands. What can I tell you about? They were short rubber bands, so we got them. So those are some of the things that are happening in and around, and I think everybody is just glad to have people back on our fields and in our buildings and participating in the activities that they really love.
One thing I forgot, Kathy. Thank you to those that sent their remarks in to Martha or showed up to speak tonight, because it's not easy, no matter how often we do it, even just sending an email. We always appreciate the feedback, and I want to make sure we do that every single time.
Okay, I think that does it for comments at this point, and we have next a presentation on vaccination, and I don't know exactly how this is going to happen. We have Dr. Carlos Cotto, Assistant Superintendent of Innovation, Equity, and Engagement, and Keith Brown over here from the Schenectady County Health Department.
Yeah, so Carlos is going to go first and go through, kind of give the board an overview of what went on. And so you have the slide also in board docs if you want to follow on board docs. So we will take us through that journey there. And then Keith is batting cleanup, and so he will be here for questions, anything that you may still have outstanding regarding clarity regarding vaccination effectiveness, or any other questions you have that you may hear from the presentation that you may want to address from the expert.
You weren't batting enough to be anything for us.
Nobody. And then before Carlos will start, I just want to say that we are partnering with System. Fantastic, Amaro, fantastic gentleman. So we're actually hosting our first principals meeting at System to show them the resource that we have in this community. So part of our goal is to try to blend that. So we're talking about mobile food pantries and having basically no hunger. We're trying to eliminate hunger for any of our families. We just need to know who needs it, and Amaro has promised me that food will be good. So just want you to know, I heard that mentioned, so I wrote that down and go over to the other. Carlos, are yours?
So good evening. Before I get started, I'd like to thank our superintendent and school board for providing me the opportunity to share some information gathered from our students and families related to interscholastic programs. Our goal as we continue to listen and learn from all key stakeholders will be grounded in our vision, tagline, and values. Equity, collaboration, and learning. And our pillars will strengthen our foundation in all that we do with a focus on student and graduate success, passionate people, partnerships with family and community, efficient systems, and equitable resources. I would like to also thank Michaela Miranda, our athletic director, for taking the lead and partnering with our senior parent liaison, Al Tompkins, high school engagement supervisor, Phil Wyman, and our MBK program specialist, Brian Ledbetter, and soliciting feedback on our athletic programs, facilities, and the COVID vaccination as it relates to sports. I would also like to thank Karen Corona with communication, which went to students and families through emails, text messages, district website, and all district social media outlets. With a tag of families of athletes, we want to hear from you. We connected with our students by conducting 2 in-person student-athlete circles, which were held on Wednesday the 29th. 15 students participated from middle school and high school, throughout our middle schools and high school programs. AD also captured emails from our students. And within these meetings, we had all of our winter sports programs represented with the exception of wrestling. We connected with our families by conducting a 2-hour virtual session via Google Meet, which was held on Thursday the 30th. We held 2 one-hour virtual sessions with 26 parents, families, and some athletes via Google Meet as well on Monday the 4th. And the athletic director also captured some feedback from our families via email. We captured information in 3 buckets, focusing on what was going well within our athletic program, what do we see as needs of improvement, and then COVID vaccine. Our student athletes, as we spoke to them within those circles, what they shared was going well, just having great coaches, and bringing back and just having that team, just working together and being part of a team. What they saw as needs of improvement were updating our weight rooms, gymnasiums and facilities, cleaner facilities. Fields need to be better taken care of. Not enough space, gym access, late practices and transportation, need for another trainer, a new scoreboard. What was interesting, they were all pushing for academics, wrap around academics and the level of accountability as it relates to the code of conduct. The need for the AD to care about the athletic program and our athletes. All sports should be supported equally. Support for team conflict mediation. So, I mean, as we spoke to some of the young ladies and young men, just the need to kind of engage in some conversations around restorative pieces as they engage in not only practices for games, and then to bring back our modified sports programs. As it went to, when we spoke of the vaccination, or just the vaccine as a whole, these were some of their comments. People who aren't comfortable with it should not have to get it, but it does impact our athletic programs. Students would like a seminar to present facts, to make a more informed decision. One young man said, my mom is against it, but if it impacts me as far as baseball, I'll make sure that she lets me participate and get the shot. Some student athletes some of them are already vaccinated, so they were in a different position as far as and then a lot of them just shared that, we don't want to get vaccinated because we just don't know enough about it. As we met with our parents, similar kind of things that are going well as some of the things that need improvement. Spoke very highly of our coaching staff, the fact that coaches connect with students, not just in school, but also the families within the community. We did have members of the Blue Roses Theater, so we had some individuals from the arts that were sharing some pieces and the success of that overall program. And then, some families shared that their children were not doing well, and with sports coming back, they actually just kind of give them a jump start and a boost in transitioning back to school. The areas of improvement were incentivizing athletic and activities for students, difficulty to get consistent gym space, more opportunities for our elementary and sixth grade students, inconsistency among boys and girls programs, lack of communication, lack of exposure to our youth programs. Parents don't hear about the opportunities that are out there in the community. Late practices, which also have impact on transportation. The paperwork that's required to get cleared to participate comes in a lot of pieces to it, so some frustration from the families. More female coaches and support for female programs. When we asked the question around the vaccine, some families or parents here, we would support whatever decision the district would make, but then they would make a decision on their own. Several parents stated that they would pull their child from sports or activities if the vaccine was mandated. Some shared that parents should have a choice. It shouldn't be mandated. One parent also emailed in support of the vaccination and making sure that and asking that we mandate it. Some parents were indifferent, but they also felt that it should be a choice. Some parents do not want to get the vaccination, but also would consider homeschooling their children. And then some parents were sharing could we give other considerations from in that of the vaccination, weekly testing, survey. That kind of concludes the information that was shared in reference to the meetings that we had with both our students and our families.
No questions?
Any questions for you, Dr. Cole, on the process or information? And then obviously, Mr. Brown, if you want to join here if there's any questions specific to the vaccine, we have our resident expert, Mr. Brown.
So just a few things, can you hear me okay? So just a few things to just fill in, and I just want to say, here's a resource to answer questions. This is a tough decision that you all have to make. This is a localized decision. Some districts, as you all know, have already made this decision around sports and other extracurricular activities. So just to give you a picture of what it looks like in the county right now, in terms of vaccination rates and case rates, tall guys is tough. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to sing for you all. So, we're doing incredibly well as a county in terms of vaccination rates. Folks might already know this, but in terms of our over 18 population, we're at about 90%, which is tremendous for a county like us. When you look at our total vaccination rate as a county, it's about 75%, which is still very good. That's sort of the good news. When we look at our city zip codes, those numbers are far below that. And then it's not the only zip codes we have that are below. We do have some of our rural areas that are right behind some of our smaller municipalities, but I just, since I'm talking to the Schenectady School District, here's what we're looking at. 1, 2, 3, 07, 53%, 05, 55%, 08, 57%, and we can sort of go down the line from there. So our city zip codes are lagging behind here, which is not great news. In terms of our active cases, we're hovering at around 300 active cases at any given point. Now, again, that's people roll off of active cases, they roll on active cases, but at any given time, recently we're at about 300. Of those cases, about a third are under 18. So I just want everybody to understand what the full scope of the picture is, because you do hear people say that kids don't get COVID and say lots of stuff that's just not true. About 30%, as of last week, was like 87 of our cases were under 18. Right now, in data I just looked at, there's about 45 active cases in the Schenectady School District right now. So of those 87 under 18, you know, you do the math on this, a lot of those folks are in this district. So in terms of, and then the hospitalizations and cases, I'll just tell you that our data locally tracks exactly with what you would expect based on national and statewide data. So in terms of our active cases, the majority, now just here's a little context for what I'm about to say. I just told you all that there were about 90% of our over 18 population are vaccinated. So we're at a very high level of vaccination in the county. Now compare that with the fact that of our active cases, only 30% of those folks are vaccinated people. So those are what people call breakthrough cases. So when you sort of weight that data and think, almost everybody's vaccinated, but when you look at our active cases, almost all of those cases are unvaccinated people. We're starting to see, we're seeing exactly what you would expect. And then in hospitalizations and in recent deaths, I think it gets even worse. So when you look at hospitalizations, almost all those folks, especially people who are very ill in ICU, are unvaccinated. And then we did have 2 recent deaths. They were both folks in their 30s. So this is what we're sort of looking at. And then I just want to talk about some of the impacts specifically on sports. So this is an individualized decision both at the district level and at the family level. So I'm not trying to convince anybody one way or another, but here's what the direct impact would be on sports and in academics. When there's a positive case that people have an exposure to, anyone who's vaccinated does not have to quarantine unless they're having symptoms when they're exposed. So if you think about what that means in terms of both the classroom and learning environment, everyday life, but then also sports and other extracurricular activities, it means that if you had an exposure on a team where the majority of those folks are unvaccinated, it means you're probably not going to be able to play if there's a game coming up during the time period that those athletes are going to be quarantined. Same thing if you're talking about the school play or school concerts or other things like that. So those are the rules. When you have an exposure to a positive case, if you're not vaccinated, you have to quarantine the next 10 days. There currently is no way to test out of quarantine. We get that question a lot. So, well, what if I had a negative test result on day 3, 4, 5? It doesn't really matter right now. There's no way to test out of quarantine as it currently stands. So that's really what the impact looks like in a practical sense when there's an exposure on one of those things. And then we also get the question about a testing alternative, which in some applications works fine. So you hear a lot of employers and other places mandating. Again, it's a big discussion for teachers and faculty, in that if you have unvaccinated staff, those folks have to go through weekly testing. The purpose of the weekly testing is to identify cases so that you can do the isolation and quarantine that's necessary to prevent further transmission. So that's the purpose of the testing. In terms of what would happen with athletes, that's not going to prevent what I just mentioned, which is that if there's an exposure, you could have been testing everybody all the time, but if there's an exposure, the unvaccinated kids are still going to have to quarantine. So those are just some things to consider. Again, that's just what the overall picture of our county looks like right now, and some of the zip codes that you all observe, and then what's the direct impact on athletes and other folks. So I guess that's it for me. I don't know if people have questions.
I have
Thank you first for comment here, Keith, and speaking to us as the, I guess you're the interim head of the.
Correct, interpublic.
And so we will then entertain questions, and you have a question.
So can you tell me the difference between emergency authorized approval and fully funded federal approval?
Sure. So emergency use approval means that that a specific company will submit data on their vaccine trials. So usually those trials involve a control group, right? A group who doesn't get the vaccine, a group that gets the vaccine. They track those people for a certain amount of time, and so they submit that data to the FDA for what's called emergency use authorization. The whole idea about that is that the usual approval process takes so long that it then prevents you from being able to act in an emergency situation, right? So obviously, COVID is and has been an emergency. So those companies submit that data to say, we have enough research that shows that the vaccine is safe and effective to be able to ask you to let us deploy this as a public health strategy to save lives and protect people. So that's the emergency use authorization. At the same time, those companies continue to collect more data, they continue to look at people over time to see if there's any adverse effects, to see if the effectiveness still sticks around, all of those things. So that's when they submit for full FDA approval. So when people say like this is not an approved vaccine, you'll hear that all the time. People say the vaccine is not approved. It's like, well, it's approved for emergency use authorization. It just means that there hasn't been enough time. It has nothing to do with the effectiveness of the product. It's just not enough time to track it to ask for full approval, which sometimes can take very long. And by that point, I mean, we already had 700,000 Americans die of COVID. So like by the time you would have emergency, if we waited for emergency use authorization, who knows what that would look like, especially for our older and medically vulnerable folks.
So when will the teenagers get federally approved fully?
Yeah, so if you think about it in terms of a lag time, right? So it's like adult approval happened first for emergency use approval, and then they submitted for full FDA approval for adults. So, right, 12 to 17-year-olds are currently in emergency use authorization while they're still collecting the data. It's really, again, I just wanted to emphasize that it's a matter of time, not in any way about effectiveness. And just one other thing I would mention is that in the history of vaccines, when there are significant adverse effects, those usually show within 6 months. So usually within 6 months of the vaccine, like you would know if there's something majorly wrong with those vaccines. Again, that's just been what it's looked like for history. And so there's no reason to expect it to be different, but that's really the difference. This is a great question. There's a lot of confusion out there about that, and it's sort of hard to explain in a soundbite what the difference is.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. When you mentioned the zip codes, and I can speculate, but I'm wondering from your experience, why do you see such a disparity between zip codes? If you can talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I could certainly wax poetic about this for a while, and I think it is accessibility issues, right? So right off the rip, if you don't have a vehicle, so early on, one of the only places you could go get vaccinated was one of the state mass vaccination sites, right? So if you didn't have a car, how were you supposed to get to that site, which for us was, the nearest one was in Albany, right? So which is just not very equitable all around. And that's not just about folks in the cities that go, that's folks who have transportation challenges in rural areas and other places. So there's just an accessibility issue. That's why I think Jamaica mentioned it before, but that's why we, on our level, have been incredibly deliberate about making sure that you practically can't miss us out there. I mean, if you walk through,
You can't walk down the street.
yeah, I mean, that's sort of the idea, right? Is that you sort of when someone's like, maybe I'm gonna get vaccinated, you're like, oh, there they are, maybe I'll go talk to somebody about it. But for us, it's not just about that, it's about having conversations with people so that if someone has a question, they can go directly to somebody who's a medical or public health professional and ask that question as opposed to, social media or wherever where sometimes it's always filtered through a lens of something else there. And we're pretty honest with people, and we'll say, here's what to expect, here's what we're seeing, here's what you might have questions about. So there's that. Obviously, I mean, I think there's a couple of like big issues around like historically, structurally racist public health and the medical system that's certainly at play here. Politics are at play here, right? There's people who are very entrenched, depend on political camp, and they're just not going to budge on it. So there's a lot to sort of unpack for people. And it's a very complex decision. And for some people, the history is not ancient history around some of the maltreatment, neglect, and abuse by the medical and public health field. And I think we just have to acknowledge that and say, it's here, it's a thing we're dealing with, and it's a challenge for people. And so I get it, it's tough, it's a very personal decision, it's not just personal, it's cultural, it's based on your family, it's based on your history. And it's based on the politics for a lot of people. And those are very challenging things to address. So that's just a few reasons. I mean, there's other sort of factors that goes into making it. But accessibility is huge for us because I said to somebody, if it's not available for you, then you don't think it's for you. So for us, it's really important to be omnipresent around so that everybody understands like that this is here. And so if you're in my neighborhood, this must be for me. I must be eligible, and it must be a good idea for me, or it might be a good idea for me, and let me go talk to somebody about it. So.
Have you found a big difference when you do go out and talk to people about the vaccination and they're more informed than they're able?
Yeah, I mean, it's something, look, we take our fair share of people driving by and cussing us out and doing that stuff. I mean, that's my staff. I mean, I got to tell you, they deal with a lot. But for every one of those things that happens, there's 5 or 10 profound conversations with people. One of the things we're seeing is that if you're consistent in a neighborhood or if you're consistent in a certain location, you might have a conversation with somebody this week. They might express some concerns, they might ask some questions, and then that's it. Then they're going to go about their life. And then the next week, they might come back and say, hey, I have one more question. Okay, what do you got? I'll let you answer that question. So it starts to become a relationship. And then I think people start to feel like there's a care involved here. It's not just, public health sometimes is like, you think you go line up and get a shot. And yeah, for some people, that's the easy part of it. But the real difficult part is like, it's about relationships. And it's about trying to have people understand why you're doing what you're doing, what the importance are, and what the risks are. Be really honest.
Is the public health department giving Moderna and Pfizer primarily, or are you giving Johnson?
We have all three.
You have all three.
Yep, so we have all three. Johnson Johnson's a little harder to get, and again, people for whom they might want a 2-shot series. Johnson Johnson's not there yet, so they with boosters for Johnson Johnson. They're working on that. But yeah, so we have all three available. So there's plenty of options for people. If they want the one-shot Johnson Johnson, we're typically able to accommodate that. Obviously, for 12 to 17-year-olds, the only thing they're eligible for is Pfizer right now.
So Moderna and Pfizer are only available for 12 to 17-year-olds.
Just Pfizer, 12 to 17.
Just Pfizer.
Correct, and that's going to be the first one that'll be the younger kids.
Okay.
And Moderna is 18 and up, so we have athletes 18 they can do.
Correct. For athletes that are 18 and older, any of the three.
And you have both Moderna and Pfizer at every site. So it's not as if people have to go to one specific site if your child is this age, regardless of what site you go to for Schenectady County Department of Health, they will have both of those on.
That's correct. All of our pods were able to do 12 to 17-year-olds from that Pfizer. The good news about this stage of the vaccine efforts is there's no concerns about supply, except sometimes the Johnson Johnson's a little tougher to get. But for Pfizer and Moderna, we've got access. We don't have the same, folks probably remember early in the rollout, there was a lot of concern about not wasting doses and any of that stuff. I mean, right now, frankly, if we open a vial and 2 people want to get vaccinated, that's fine. There's no barrier to that. We just, we deal with that.
Any other questions?
Yes. How many parents did you speak to?
Over 26.
Was that just parents? Because it says parents, families, athletes, or is 26 the...
26 was the parents. The athletes were in there, but they were in the back, because it was the Google Meet.
Okay.
What's the breakout for the parents of the one out of choice or some parents? Do you have a breakout of what each parent?
Not all parents, they were all in the actual Google Meet, but not all of them shared. Not all of them, some of them shared a little more than others. And we kept going back and kind of asking, you know, could anyone else want to share? We probed a couple, but I mean, it kind of gave them the comfort of communicating when they felt comfortable.
Any other questions?
Well, I appreciate this information. You need to make, before you make a decision, you need to have, you know, information, informed information, and feedback. So I thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you. And thank you for holding the meetings with parents and students.
And I do want to say thank you to Mrs. Shaw, because we talked about this at the last board meeting, and you recommended some of these suggestions to have you come, so thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos and Miranda, and Michaela. Oh, 3M, we're gonna call you 3M.
That's what I
I also wanted to share that as we spoke to the students as well as the parents, we did share that that's not a one and done, that we're going to continue to seek insight from them as we continue to do the work around just building that level of trust and commitment to the community as a whole. So that we will be connecting with them for many other things as we continue to build.
And just to clarify, Board President and board members, the resolution in front of you just states Moderna, Pfizer, and has some timelines for the 2 administration windows. And the goal for the second dose will be done by November 14th, which would not impact participation in winter sports as long as the students met that date, because the sports teams start on the 15th. So it's like the day before they officially start. If there is a recommendation that we want to make Johnson & Johnson on here, we didn't put it on here because it was one of the ones that we know was a 1 dose but only 18 and up. And so we put the ones that people were more comfortable with during our Pfizer, although Pfizer is a 12 to 17-year-old, so that would be the only one that they would take. So just to clarify some of the language on the board resolution and the timelines.
I think we will move down and take that resolution because it's timely out of order. Your presentation is scheduled before that. You don't have to
I think that is that my comment. So
Okay, so we're on to the resolution for vaccination. And as Mr. Soler has said, it shows the Pfizer and Moderna. Moderna get the first dose by October 17th, and therefore that will allow getting the second dose before November 14th, and the Pfizer before October 24th, also getting the second dose before November 14th. So we have this resolution approving the vaccination requirement for sports participation. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So, second.
Jamaica. I am first. Jamaica. And any further discussion?
I have some comments because I heard it's both sides. So I just watched the news today and they were talking about the people who passed and orphans. There's 140,000 people who passed, and of that amount, 65% were minority. So I'm still concerned about our 55% vaccination rate and those minorities who aren't vaccinated. So if the parents aren't vaccinated, they're not going to allow their students to be vaccinated. And in addition to that, it's still in the emergency use, and so some parents still might want to time before they make that final choice to have their children vaccinated. So I'm still in the same, I don't want to leave a child out of the opportunity to be in a team, to get that extra academic support, to get that extra mentoring, those social skills and all those other things that you get with a team. And someone said that it was a choice that students have, but it's not their choice if they're excluded. They have no choice. Their parents won't let them get vaccinated. There's no choice.
I mean, for me, one of the things I heard from Keith, those numbers and those zip codes, it wasn't saying that every person that's not vaccinated is a person that's decided they're not going to get vaccinated. We know that there are some parents who absolutely, at this time, in this moment, like if we asked them today, they would say no. But what I was encouraged by, Keith saying, is the conversations that he's having, and
being in the community and having community relationships that more often than not, when they have those questions answered, they then are getting vaccinated because they do have questions and they have concerns, and when they are answered, they then are getting vaccinated. And not that, like, we have no way of knowing exactly what the number is for us to, we would have to talk to 10,000 student families to know exactly how many are already vaccinated, plan on getting vaccinated, won't get vaccinated. But we do have the data from the Department of Health that tells us where we stand for anyone vaccinated doesn't need to be quarantined unless they have symptoms, that if they are exposed and they're not vaccinated, they have to quarantine for 10 days, which impacts not just their sports but their academics. That weekly testing for our athletes does not prevent further exposure, and that we're looking at, I wrote down the numbers, that 1/3 of the active cases, that 2/3 of the active cases are unvaccinated, and there's approximately 87 who are under 18 right now that are active cases, and our hospitalizations, especially the ICU, are unvaccinated. I mean, the numbers, besides the fact that we still have some work to do in some of our poorer communities, 12307, 12305, 12308, my hood, that the numbers speak for themselves about the effectiveness to keep our students and our families safe. I've been proud of the accessibility through our website to share information with families, which is why I keep pushing people, go to the website, you can get additional information. If we are looking to make our sports and academics accessible to students, it's not accessible if they're not vaccinated. It leaves them at risk and puts them in a position to not be able to participate if they are exposed. And so I do hear you on the numbers, and I look forward to continuing conversations where we'll have access and opportunity potentially with students, right? So the student said they want a presentation on this, so how can we continue to partner with the Department of Health, and maybe it's a Zoom call with the students or a Google Meet. God help us with the Google Meet. But to give them directly the information so that they have it as well.
I think it's a double-edged sword, though, right? Because we do want all students to have access, but then if we are mandating the vaccination, that's going to exclude many students, and it's going to happen to these students of color when we use that.
We're saying many, we don't know.
Okay, so I think we have to, it is a double-edged sword. I understand, and I totally, understand the importance of getting a vaccination, and I'm kind of rewinding. I do believe, as myself, and I said this at the last board meeting, I made a personal choice. My personal choice was to get vaccinated. I believe that the families, and we did hear some of the comments, I know that wasn't the entirety, and I know we have many, many parents in the school district, but I feel as a school board, is that really our role to mandate families? And I know some people will argue yes, some people will argue no. But in terms of the equity piece that you're talking about, I think we really have to look at that, right? Because those students who are not, if we're going to go in that route, the students that are most likely not going to get vaccinated are going to be probably, unfortunately, our students of color. So right there's a gap, right? There's going to be certain students that are going to participate and certain students that are not. I don't know if that, I don't want to go in that direction, but I'm saying, like, again, if we're talking about equity and making sure that kids have access, we have to look at both sides of the whole conversation.
And if we're talking about equity and creating policy, then we also have to make sure the implementation is equitable as well, which is something the district has already done by sharing that information. And if we, I imagine, have the opportunity to share directly with the emails and the text messages so that parents know when and where those vaccination pods are. We don't know how many parents or students, so for us to say many students are not going to be vaccinated, that's an overgeneralization. We don't have data that proves that many students are not going to be vaccinated. Our duty is to make policy and decisions for the health and well-being of the student body. And Ann pointed out at the last meeting, they already have mandatory vaccines.
For 11 diseases, if they start with us in pre-K, and I think to your point, Bernice, about us making this decision, I think the problem is New York State should have made this decision. It should not be up to us.
Absolutely.
But since it is up to us, I think we need to do what's best for our students' health and our faculty's health.
But I
It's
wonder,
not just the students who will be exposed.
yeah, but my wonder is, are we making that decision? I mean, we must assume that the families and parents are going to do the best for their students. So are we saying, this is just my concern, are we saying, no, wait a minute, we know what's right for your students, for your, I think that's, again, it's a slippery slope. I know this is a very difficult decision for everyone to make, but I just want to remind too, I do like and it was mentioned in the presentation, informing our parents, I think is hugely important and beneficial. When you inform families about the vaccination, from what I'm hearing, that gives it more likelihood that the parents are going to, and families are going to get their students vaccinated. So I just want to,
We're not making the decision for individual families. We're making this as a policy decision for the community at large here, and for the ability, as I said last time, that they can make a decision, they can make a choice as to whether or not they want to play a particular sport.
I,
They should make a decision as to whether or not they get vaccinated for it.
yeah, I think Board President made a good point. You're making a decision around the policy for participation. You're not telling any family what they have to do. So you're saying here in Schenectady schools, while we're in this pandemic, we believe that the best way forward for our kids to get the best experience in athletics is to have them be required to be vaccinated. And I just want to give some real data to inform you right now. So, Board Member Ann Riley has mentioned 11 immunizations. So we sent out letters to over 500 families, and these immunizations have been required for as long as, when I was a student.
As long as they were done.
Exactly. And so there's 11 of them that are required. And so we sent over 500 notifications of current families that we have to work with to try to figure out, because guess what's going to happen to those kids? They will be excluded from school. And those parents now have to make decisions. Do they want measles, mumps, rubella, DTP, booster, or distemper, whatever they call those. I can't understand all the acronyms. And I also want to give you a tangible, real, current athletic experience. So our JV boys team is currently quarantined because over the weekend, a couple of the members testified. So they are not playing, they are not practicing, and guess what? They're not in school because they have to quarantine. Now, I don't want to take away the significance of the decision that the board has made, but just wanted to give you that example that over 500 families are getting exclusion notices regarding regular, standard 11 immunizations that we had no say in, it was mandated. And so those kids will have an equity access problem. We're working with the health clinic, the hometown health, trying to figure out how we can offer some of those vaccines so that families don't disrupt their learning. And I'm guaranteeing you that if the board were to go with this resolution, I can guarantee you, Pete and I will have some options for our kids right here in the building to have conversations, but to also with the vaccine, to eliminate the barriers of access, and to work with whoever. We don't want to hurt anybody's. But at the end of the day, the science, the data is significantly proving that this is the right decision to make. In order to get back to this thing called normal that we're trying to all get back to, and I just wanted to provide you some of that evidence because I know that oftentimes those immunizations get brought up. We are already excluding children from school as a result of those immunizations. What we're telling you tonight is we're excluding kids currently for JV football because they had to quarantine. No fault of anybody. They just happened to get exposure, happened to show some symptoms, went and got tested, now the whole team had to quarantine. So that's a heartbreaking call for us. Andrew does a lot of work with the team, but I'm sure Michaela can tell you it was a tough conversation to have with those kids to say, sorry, nothing we can do about it. You gotta stay home. And oh, by the way, Schenectady High School, we're in quarantine, you're going to do remote instruction, you're not going to be able to come to school. And it's like 10 days. So it's not even like 3 days test out, it's 10 days. So just wanted to call you.
And I just want to read something. California imposed a mutual identity for school children, but it won't take effect until the 22 school year because it's still an emergency use. So it's on the table, but they have parents who are still required because the vaccine is still under emergency use authorization. And they want to have a choice in time to think about, are they going to keep their kids out of school, homeschool, or, they're not comfortable yet under emergency use authorization.
There's a lot of history in California of anti-vaxxers, and there's also a lot of history of measles outbreaks because of the anti-vaxxers. So I don't want to go the way of California with regard to vaccination.
New York.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, moved by Nathan, seconded by Ann. I think we've had substantial discussion about it, so I will call for a vote. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
And how many are opposed, please?
Bernice.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have 4 to 3. And so the resolution carries. Okay, we have our capital projects update, and I believe, I know I saw Sean, oh, there's Bob. Sean Hamlin and Bob Randay, please.
Good evening. Is this on?
It is now. No, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm good?
Yep.
Yeah, now you are.
Good evening. It's finally wonderful to be here in person, to see you in the flesh. Not on the screen, basically. All right, so we will begin our monthly facilities program and status update. This is a slide that we are very familiar with, or many of us are, who've been listening to these updates. In 2013 began the planning, the long-range plan for the district. And at this point in time, we've completed phase 1 program. That was, as you can see by the slide, approximately from 2014 to 2017. And currently, we are well within phase 2, which is the designing has been basically completed, and nearly all of our projects have been constructed or currently in construction. And Bob Grande will talk a little bit about that. And then looking out into the not-so-distant future, there is phase 3, where that would be engaged, and then phase 4, in order to pick up on projects that the maximum cost allowance could not address originally. This is phase 2 project schedule. And this is a group of projects that are in 3 portions. The Group B, which began, as you can see, in 2017 and completed in 2020. Group C1 project and Group C2 and 3 projects that are currently in construction. And those are Hamilton, PV, and Yates. We'll now talk about the specifics of each of these projects. Bob.
You can take my call.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so the first Group B project, MLK, all interior spaces have been turned over, digitally moved in, were turned over prior to the start of the school year. The remaining work there just consists of some exterior work, as you can see in some of the photos. The site is restored where our staging area was, and we're just buttoning up the main entrance courtyard there. So you can see we finally got our steel in place. We're working now this week on closing up that roof. We're just waiting on some of the final finishes. We got some custom back seating, some signage, and some lettering that'll happen in front of that, as well as some of the custom gates to enclose that courtyard. And that'll be the remaining work at MLK. Over at Woodlawn, again, another Group B school. Temporary classrooms were demolished over the summer. Gym was turned back into a gym, floors refinished and restriped, and these spaces were turned back over in beginning of the school year. So all the interior spaces and exterior spaces at Woodlawn are complete. Just working on buttoning up the last few punch list items, odds and ends, and that job will be buttoned up and closed out. Group C, Shannon, are the ones that are currently under construction, full bore here. So phases 1 and 2 at Pleasant Valley were turned over, and the district has moved into those at the beginning of the school year. And as you can see in some of these photos, we're deep into construction in the future phases of 2 and 3. Framing is ongoing, finishes are starting here, drywall is going. And then the other 2 big items are the 2 exterior stair towers, which are Joe Pass, you've seen being constructed. The one on the west side is being enclosed this week. We'll start getting some sheeting on there, and work on the masonry, and hopefully get that enclosed before the snow starts to fly. And then the east stair tower will be right behind that again. Moving into that next, getting enclosed, and hopefully before the snow starts to fly, we'll get it enclosed, we can finish the interior build for winter. Over at Yates, again, phases 1 and 2 were turned over prior to the school year, and then phases 3 is ongoing. You can see there's some framing going, mechanical roughings, and then drywall finishes will be following behind that. And then the last phase, once that is complete, will be beginning of this year in the spring times. This is a job that we were able to get ahead of because of taking advantage last year. The school being closed, so we are running ahead of schedule here. So we will be funding that this school year. And then the last Group C school is Hamilton. Initial phases were turned over prior to the school year, and we'll continue to work throughout the other phases. As you can see, some of the other Group C schools, framing and finishes are ongoing in the phase 2 areas. As you can see in that photo, the new elevator addition, the shaft is constructed, and we're working on the exterior shell of that building. Again, hoping to get that closed up, buttoned up before the snow starts to fly, so we can finish the interior of that throughout the winter. Then just a couple of the outside projects. This one here is the Mount Pleasant Kitchen that has been completed. Turned over again, the school is using that, and they're doing some great cooking with the new equipment in there. The only thing that's remaining after the night is the walk-in cooler. There has been national delays on that. We are finally in the queue of getting insulation for that cooler. Our queue spot is showing us in November sometime. Hoping a little bit, maybe if they push it a little bit, we'll be able to take advantage of the December Christmas break, get that installed. It's going to be 3 or 4 days anyway, so that kind of works out with everything. So as long as they hold our spot in that queue, we'll continue to follow up on that weekly to make sure we get that over that Christmas break. Another outside project was the capital outlay for the ramp reconstruction here at the high school. I'm sure some of you have seen that ramp. It was falling and kind of in disrepair. So that has been complete, and that was complete prior to the opening of the school year. You can see in the photos here that was up, and then we also replaced the doors at the pool entrance. Again, that was complete prior to the school year. Sean.
So, thanks, Bob. So we have this final slide. We're completing our construction of the phase 2 we talked about in Lincoln, Gonzales, Schenectady High School, as well as Mount Pleasant heating issues. And we're looking forward to also some design and construction on some other outside of the capital projects. Mount Pleasant and OMS kitchen upgrades, Schenectady High School ramp reconstruction, and the Schenectady High School kitchen renovation and addition, and Scala kitchen upgrades. So these are some projects that are not in the not too distant future that we are currently working. Any questions?
So we've already done ramp reconstruction, for example, right?
Some of the kitchen work.
And the kitchen work as well here.
Correct.
Some of it, yes.
I mean, the high school kitchen and the SAL kind of have master.
The high school kitchen and the SELA kitchen kind of had master training phase. I believe Sean presented that with Elaine as far as the high school goes, and SELA is kind of had that master training overall phase.
I walk by there, so I know that stuff.
I would just like them to be able to create a tour at some point.
I would
It would take some more time, but I have, I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah, I let Bob know that when we're ready, that he will be more than glad to walk through the sites.
Yes, we'd love to give you guys a tour.
Actually, we haven't even seen some of the ones on the first stage.
Yeah.
That's how, we saw them at the night.
I think we walked through right away back when, yeah. And so, yeah, we'd be more than happy to take you a tour of any building that you'd like to walk at any time.
Maybe Mark can maybe request a date and when would be good, and kind of work around that schedule. We get a tour of some of the ones that were recently done, like Woodlawn, MLK,
Yeah.
really great spaces. They're done now, or too much of
I heard MLK sometimes.
MLK.
Some people.
And then we kind of work through it again.
How many, last year when we did a presentation, you talked about the students that were involved. How many were involved going forward this year? They were interns or something that we did with our students?
So we had an intern here, Gabby was here with us last time. She came up through the ranks kind of through our Force 120 and all that. We used to do an ACE mentoring program. We used to have that, and that kind of fell to the wayside last year because of COVID. So we did a virtual session of it. We had more of mentors than we did mentees. So we're really trying to push that back this year. And I'd love to get in front of our kind of from the district. That is a great plan. We did have some really awesome times with this Schenectady class and a lot of very good participation when we could do it in person. We were designing a lot of cool things. I think the one that Gabby did was like a zombie shelter or something. They had a lot of fun with it. It was a lot of fun teaching them. But again, COVID kind of squashed it. Now we're going to get back to that kind of sense of normalcy, I guess. But yeah, anyone that we can talk to, get us in front of tech teachers, guidance, anyone that can kind of help facilitate that, we'd love to get back in and do whatever we can.
Over the years, we've had problems with SED, approval of designs and so on. And maybe we don't have that many over there at this point, or have things improved substantially.
Well, that timeline has been going up and down when we track with SCD. There was a real problem. That problem died because there was a pushback because of the COVID. Many districts, put things on the shelf. That was the last thing that they were concerned about. But we're anticipating there will be a rise again. There's also the internal baseball at SCD. There's some changing in some of the leadership there on the facility side. But that will continue to rise and fall. And that could be, we can have a conversation about that relative to targeting future work as well.
So where do we stand with phase 3? What are our plans?
Yeah, so I know that there was originally like a general shell with groupings of school. Right now we're doing a building condition survey, request for proposal, which board members were invited if you wanted to participate. That's going to happen on Friday, and Bruce will be there as well, presenting as one of the architects. So we're going to need to do a building condition survey and then feed into what the next kind of phase looks into. So the goal is to still continue this work, but the building condition survey is going to have to drive some of that work. And we're going to have to do some probably new long-range planning with some student voice, part of the master planning facility group, teachers, and folks. So, I think that there needs to be a bigger conversation around what our schools look like. We still have a campus that we're not currently using, which I don't know is in the plan or not, or what the rationale was. We potentially were selling Elmer at one point. I'm not sure where that is even at. And so we need to have some serious reflective conversations. And the hope is that we'll select an architect and we can increase that.
I like your suggestions on having students involved because they're the ones who are, using the buildings. So having them involved in that conversation.
And they, looked at what the committee work from the athletics. There are some things they want. They want, premium weight rooms. They want spaces that they're going to want to use beyond the school day on the weekends. And so, it may change some of the concepts. So we're just going to make sure that we have some healthy dialogue and then move forward. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. We have, should I get back to it? Okay, we have a resolution on student placements. I'll accept the motion to approve placements for special education pupils.
So moved, Frank.
Second?
Second.
Got consolidated. Any discussion? We did see that we have quite a number of transfers into the district, and details were provided to us people were really coming from all over, so. Okay, all those in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that resolution carries. Who made the motion? I wrote that down. No, I got the right one, I'm sorry. I'm writing the wrong column. All right, the motion carries. And then we have personnel items, a resolution approving consent items 8A1 to 8B8 concerning certain personnel actions. I'll accept the motion to approve these items. And second?
Second one.
Bernice? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have resolution 8C, approving the memorandum of agreement between the Schenectady City School District and CSEA Local 1000 AFSCME, Schenectady CSD SESRN Code Unit 8509-01, Schenectady County Local 886. If you believe all those numbers, I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution. Who was it? Noelani?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think this is great. Our partners do so much for us, so I'm so happy to see this resolution in front of us.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Resolution 8D requires a waiver of 48-hour rule with regard to a memorandum of agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Middle Managers Association. May I have a resolution to approve this waiver?
So moved.
Second.
Priscilla, second. Nolan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. I have resolution 8D then, approving the memorandum of agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Middle Managers Association. I'll accept a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Priscilla? I think I froze it here on the screen. Okay, all those in favor of the resolution, the memorandum of agreement, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have resolution 8E requiring a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to the acceptance of certain resignations. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved.
Noelani, second.
Second, Erica.
Erica. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And we have resolution 8E then accepting the resignations of those certificated employees. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second.
Noelani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We have resolution 8F requiring a waiver of 48-hour rule with regard to the appointment of certain certificated employees for a temporary period. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved.
Was that
Priscilla.
Priscilla.
Second, Jamaica.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Resolution 8F approves the appointment of Dennis Green as acting high school principal for a temporary period. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Jamaica.
Jamaica, second. And any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Resolution 8G requires a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to the appointment of certain certificated employees for a probationary period. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved, Erica.
Erica, second. Melanie. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 8G approves the appointment of Tanya Delamater as principal of Van Cortez Elementary School and Carmela Parenti as director of teaching and learning for a probationary period. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution. And second. Erica, second. No, I'm sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. So there's motion carries, and we will congratulate Tanya, Dennis, and Carmela. To have your resignations accepted before your that's why I went very fast. We have a resolution accepting the treasurer's report for the month ended August 31st, 2021. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Priscilla, second.
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have resolution accepting the central treasurer's report on extra classroom activity accounts for the month ended August 31st. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved,
Bernice, second.
Second, Erica.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. A resolution accepting the donation of $5,000 given by AdoptClassroom.org on behalf of the new Burlington store opening in Schenectady to be used at Hamilton Elementary School. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Does that mean you take the shot there?
Principal Manners is excited, expensive.
Okay, any discussion concerning this resolution?
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, the motion carries. We now have a second opportunity for any comments from school board members.
I wanted to thank, congratulate Juliet to Crystal for being appointed to the Board of Trustees of the New York City County Board of Trustees.
I didn't.
Juliet Crystal, sorry. You don't know how to Oh my goodness. The mask muffles everything. So congratulations, Juliet.
She's out of the starting board. All right, any other comments from school board members? All right, at this point, we have an executive session being called for the purpose of discussing medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation. I'll accept the motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Erica.
Erica. Any discussion? All right, and if there's none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.